What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It is Victory Monday here in Washington State with the Seattle Seahawks coming off a big win on Sunday Night Football. Maybe not in terms of the level of competition provided by the opponent, but a big win in the sense that the team played exceedingly good football. And I think we're all feeling pretty good about the direction of this team. Now, we have a lot to talk about with regards to yesterday's game, and we will be doing that today, plenty. But before we get to that, I'm going to use this morning video to talk about something kind of off the topic of yesterday's game, at least from the Seahawks perspective, because the trade deadline is like, what, 28 hours away or something? I think it's 28 hours. And I want to take care of some dangling threads. Be right back. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. Welcome back. So, over the last week or 2 weeks or whatever, I've spent a lot of time on this channel going through some of the really bad teams in this league before the deadline and talking about some of the players that they might be willing to trade that might be interesting to the Seahawks. Well, after the events of yesterday, I think we have a couple more teams we need to at least consider that might be in a place where they are bad enough to where they should at least strongly consider selling at the deadline. And I'm not sure if these teams are bad enough. I'm not sure if these teams are going to be willing to throw it in the towel quite yet. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about them. I'm not going to go super in depth like the earlier videos. I'm going to be a little bit quicker. But I do want to talk through some possibilities here. I want to talk about the Bengals, and I want to talk about the Commanders, who we beat last night. I think there's an argument to be made that you would also add the Texans in here, but they're 3-5, and these two teams are 3-6, so they're a little bit better off. And I just don't think that Texans team is thinking about selling right now. I think that they're probably realizing this is going to be a bad season. I think they probably know this season's done, but I think there's more of a sense that they want to keep things together for next year if they feel like they have something that's good. Like with the Texans, I would say, hey, give them a call about Ed Ingram, their right guard that's been pretty good, but he's been pretty good. Wouldn't the Texans want to keep that guy? Because next year they're presumably going to try this again, right? It feels a little bit less like they just, it doesn't feel like Houston needs to roll over, and it doesn't feel like they're going to be as willing to roll over as these teams might be. Maybe. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with it. So with the Bengals, they're 3-6. They lost to the Jets at home. They blew a ridiculous game against the Bears after the Bears tried to blow it a couple times themselves. So that's a team that might be willing to move some pieces at the deadline for draft picks, save some money. There are a few guys here worth talking about. Two guys on the offensive line I want to mention here. The first is Lucas Patrick. He's not even really playing for them right now, or at least he's not starting. Lucas Patrick, not a great player anymore, but he did play under Kubiak in New Orleans previously, and he has been a good player in this league. He's a veteran. He's got experience at both guard positions, I believe. And I do think that even in his more not as effective form that he's in right now, he might be better than Bradford. So Lucas Patrick would be an easy one to trade for because he's on a cheap deal. And Dalton Risner. And I talked about Dalton Risner in the offseason a lot. That's a guy who has started in this league a lot before. He's played left and right guard. He's been fairly effective on both sides at times. And there have been times where he hasn't been as effective, but Risner also on an easy to trade deal. So make the Bengals a very, very low offer for either of those guys. I think they would listen. It's not like either guy is part of their long-term plans, but I think both guys could be better than Bradford, and even if they're not, they are going to improve your depth. These are guys with a lot of NFL experience that have shown they can be good players in this league. So that's it for the Bengals offense, really. I don't think anything else is appealing or makes sense. Now, the defense, there is some interesting stuff here, and we know that some of it also wants out. Trey Hendrickson, we know he wants out. And Logan Wilson, we know he wants out. Now, Trey Hendrickson, I don't know. That feels like a trap to me. I look at Trey Hendrickson and I see a guy that's just starting to hit the next phase of his career. And if you trade for him, you're going to have to extend him probably immediately. And I just feel like that's a trap. And also, he spent most of his career playing with his hand in the dirt. You move him to this 3-4 defense or, a defense where the edges play standing up a lot. I think he can do it, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. The Trey Hendrickson thing, I struggle with that. Because, and not only everything I just said, if you trade for Hendrickson, you probably have to move Mafe in a separate deal. Because I don't think the Bengals are going to want Mafe. What's the value of Mafe to them? Not much. So I'm not feeling that. Logan Wilson, though, I think that one's interesting because now we've got what we got yesterday, where Ernest Jones got hurt. Now, real quick, let me just say my understanding is it looks like it's not a big deal with Ernest Jones, but it does look like he has a chance of missing some time. And there is a realistic possibility that he misses what may end up being the most important game of the year against the Rams, which, I mean, in a game where the margins are going to be thin, that could cost you a lot. So right now you've got Drake Thomas, who's playing pretty well right now, but I don't know how you play him with Tyrese Knight. Because Tyrese Knight was not playing well before he basically got benched, and now he's the next man up. Between those two guys, which one is your middle linebacker? Which one's your play caller? Right? Can those two guys coexist? Do those two guys make sense together? I don't know. But Logan Wilson is a guy who's played a ton of reps at inside linebacker for the Bengals. He does do some weak will linebacker stuff he has in the past. And he's already asked for a trade. So I don't think this one would be super expensive. I think this one would be relatively easy to do. I don't think the money is huge. I could see the Bengals say, look, our defense is so bad anyway. Trading Logan Wilson's not going to make us worse. Let's just get a cheap pick. And Seattle gives themselves some reinforcements until Ernest Jones comes back and some depth in the event that Tyrese Knight doesn't get better by the time the end of the season comes around. So those would be the two guys I look at, but really, I'm only looking at Logan Wilson. I think that's the play. I do. Washington is the other team, and I think with them, it's more definitive. Jaden Daniels probably won't play another snap this year. They're 3-6. They're playing the Broncos soon. They're playing the Eagles soon. They're playing the Lions soon. They're done. They will be lucky to win 7 games this year, I think. They will be lucky to win 7 games. And at this point, given that this has been such a, well, what do you even want to call it? A black cat of a season for them where everything's gone wrong. At this point, I think you just kind of want things to be over with. I think you just kind of want someone to put you out of your misery. So trading some of your players for picks could be one way to get out of your misery here. And What Seattle could trade for from this group, again, without going super in depth and spending way too much time on stuff that's probably not likely going to happen. Offensively, the only thing that really sticks out to me is Cosme, and I have no idea what's going on with that contract. I remember really liking Sam Cosme in the draft many years ago, but his contract, I know his rookie contract would have expired by now. I don't know what kind of extension the Commanders gave him. I don't think it's huge. I think it's tradable, but I'm not sure. And he's been all right. He's been pretty good. So if you got Sam Cosme here, I think that would probably reinforce things fairly well. So that's really it offensively. I don't want to trade for any of their skill position players. Biotish, I don't know. He's not really a great scheme fit anyway. I do think he would be an upgrade, but I don't think he would be huge, and he's a little too limited for me. Connerly's a rookie. They're not going to trade him. So that's it for the offense. Defensively, obviously, there's going to be a pull to maybe going after Bobby Wagner, which would be sentimental as much as it would be about making the team better. But honestly, if Ernest Jones misses some time here, and it sounds like that he will miss at least a little bit of time, Bobby Wagner would not be a bad option to try to make things better, right? I know he's flawed. I know he's slow. I know he's not going to be good in coverage. I know there are going to be plays where you notice how old he is. But in this exact situation, maybe Bobby Wagner is exactly what you need to bring this together. Because I know Wagner's still putting up numbers. I know he's still doing some things well, but at his age, if he ends up becoming a part-time player when Ernest Jones comes back, I don't think he would be too upset about that. Like, at his age, with all that he's done and all he's put on his body in this league, and with the limitations he does have, I do believe that Bobby Wagner would probably be very content with being more of a backup who occasionally gets in certain packages for the Seahawks, watching Ernest Jones try to push this team to a championship. So that is interesting. I think the contract is pretty tradable. You would have to take on some money, I imagine, but you have the money to spend. And honestly, their other linebacker, Frankie Louvu, I think the contract at this point should be somewhat tradable. That's not bad either. He's a pretty good weak side linebacker. That's somebody that could give you Drake Thomas insurance. That's somebody who could maybe take Drake Thomas's job right now. He's a guy that I like. I remember liking him in Carolina. I think he played college football at Washington State, if I recall correctly. So he knows the area. He probably has some sentimental feelings about Washington State. That might be a good option to give yourself some weak side linebacker depth if you don't think that Tyrese Knight's going to come back. There's not really too much else, though, like maybe Jeremy Reeves or Darnell Savage, depending on who Mike McDonald thinks will fit what he's doing defensively. Maybe. I remember really liking Darnell Savage in the draft, but he's been a very anonymous player so far in this league, so I don't know. And you watch that Washington secondary, you couldn't be blamed for thinking, I don't want any of these players, but Savage has a lot of talent. It just doesn't always show itself positively. All right. That's really about it. Like, I definitely don't want to trade for Von Miller, Preston Smith, Javon Kinlaw. I don't think that Washington would trade like St. Ristel as much as he hasn't been very good this year. He is a good player. I don't want Lattimore. Like, I can't think of too much else. That's it. But some stuff to think about. I did want to go ahead and get this video out quickly before the trade deadline stuff starts firing off, which I imagine we're going to see it soon. Again, less than 28 hours, I believe, until the deadline. Okay, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. More videos coming soon. That's the trade deadline.